Let's get into it. Need for Speed High Stakes is an incredible racing game. I feel like it's the peak of Need for Speed on the PlayStation 1. It's kind of a shame that they went to Porsche Unleashed after this, which feels like a massive step backwards. But Need for Speed High Stakes is an incredible game to play, especially if you got friends that were playing it, or if you had friends that were playing it back in the day, because you could race for each other's cars. It introduced an upgrading system. It had some really wacky unlockables. There was a lot to do, and it was bloody hard. I had a hard time with it, but boy, it was fantastic. The menu music, the menu design sticks with me to this day. It's just an all-round great Need for Speed game, and I think the absolute peak of Need for Speed on the PlayStation. I remember my brother had this game, and he actually copied over his save to my memory card, and then we raced each other using different cars, and he ended up taking all of my cars. He was so good at the game. But seeing the McLaren F1, the Mercedes CLK GTR, those cars, that was the very first time I've seen those cars, and they have stuck with me to this day. Absolutely amazing. If you've never played Need for Speed High Stakes and you're into the PlayStation 1, you need to try it. Just at least try it. I wasn't the biggest fan of wrestling growing up. I didn't have cable TV. My friend did, so he got to see the wrestling a bit, but I never seen it. But when I got the game, oh boy, didn't I have a blast. The ability to create your own character, create your own entrance, and then come in, have a career, unlock new hidden parts and hidden moves when you fight these unknown wrestlers. SmackDown 2 is absolutely incredible. These days, yeah, it looks pretty damn aged, I won't lie, but I'm still getting butterflies with this game. The menu sounds, the menu design, the roster, the intros, the way that they did that, it all just, I don't know, it's nostalgia fest for me. That's why SmackDown 2 is on this list. Blew my mind when I could go into the backstage area, into the back rooms, fight with things found on the ground. This was, to me, absolutely amazing. I'm sure a lot of you are probably going to wonder why I've got Final Fantasy VIII on this list, but not Final Fantasy VII. The truth is, I haven't played Final Fantasy VII, but I have played Final Fantasy VIII, and Final Fantasy VIII has something in it I think probably is 50% of the reason why I like this game, and that is Triple Triad, which is a card game. And as you play the game, you can draw cards from your enemies using a special ability and build up your deck. And I ultimately only cared about building up my deck. That being said, the story is incredible, if a little wacky. The cinematics are way ahead of their time. And it's a 4-disc game. It's a long game, but boy, what an adventure. And if you've never played Final Fantasy before, if you want to have a look into it, I don't know whether Final Fantasy VIII is your best foray into that particular series, but for me, it's my all-time favorite Final Fantasy game. If there was ever a mascot for PlayStation, it would have to be Crash. And I remember when I got Crash Bandicoot Warped, oh my goodness, that game was incredible. I didn't play the first Crash Bandicoot or Crash Bandicoot 2, and it wasn't a bad place to start in the series. It's a very fun game, a very challenging game. It's a game where the levels are broken up into sort of short levels, short spurts that take about 5 to 10 minutes to complete. It really did make me pull my hair out when I was a kid. I remember it being very, very hard. Or I just needed to get good. One of those. If you've never played Crash Bandicoot before, geez, Crash Bandicoot Warp, it's definitely a great place to start. By all means, pick it up before it keeps going up in price. And I kind of feel like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro kind of had a bit of a competition happening with each other. Spyro was, to me, the more approachable of the two games. Now, I got Spyro 2 given to me by my aunt and uncle a long time ago for my birthday. I remember it came with a Spyro 2 CD wallet as well. It was purple and it had Spyro embroidered on it. It was so cool. Spyro 2 though, I actually finished that game. I do remember that I found all of the gems. That's a lot of gems to find. But yeah, an absolutely fun platformer game. I know they remade them recently, but I really like the charm of the originals. There's even sound effects in the originals I don't think they brought back for the remakes, and that kind of breaks my heart. It really rings the nostalgia bell for me when I hear that zap every time I walk by a checkpoint. If you played the game, you know exactly what I mean. Alright, now we're into the top 5, and I don't think there's a better place to start than Tony Hawk, and especially Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. I could have gone Pro Skater 1 or Pro Skater 3. I kind of feel like Pro Skater 3 really peaked on the PS2 though, and Pro Skater 1, while a good game, Pro Skater 2 basically capitalized on everything that number 1 had made and just made it better. The skate park editor, the creator skater, and then just the addition of more tricks and more capabilities, more interesting levels, interactive levels that change when you do certain things like the helicopter in the warehouse here. Fantastic. And then the unlockables. Oh my goodness. And then the soundtrack. One of my most favorite soundtracks in video games ever. If you've never played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and I doubt you haven't, don't think that Pro Skater 1 plus 2 is the same. It's not. If you can get your hands on this, or if you can get your hands on the slightly enhanced version that came on the Xbox in America, please get it and try it. Now, if there was one game in this list where just the menu, just the presentation alone, and the soundtrack alone made it easily a top 10 game, it's this one, and that's Ridge Racer Type 4. Now, apart from the yellow menu, the just interesting stories that are told with the different teams that you can go with in Grand Prix mode. Besides that, besides the banging soundtrack, I love the wacky cars. I love the really weird designs of the cars. I love the way you unlock cars. You got the truck come around with a trailer and the car comes out the back of it and it's presented to you. It's a surprise. It's a big deal. I love that. And I love that you don't really know what the car's going to be like or look like. I love the fact they've got these ludicrous looking cars in there that look like rocket ships and tanks and things like that. I love that. And to me, Ridge Racer Type 4 is still the peak of the series. And I say that as if they're still making Ridge Racer games, but to me it really is. That was the standard that they set and have never been able to match since. If there's one PlayStation, one game I could probably just play casually, happily, at any point in my life, it would be this game, and this is Tekken 3. Now, Tekken 1 and 2, while having their own sort of identity, weren't as fluid and as refined as Tekken 3. Tekken 3 just took it to a whole new level. It went from being, in my opinion, kind of dorky at times, especially when the announcer was like, round 1, and it just echoed. It just sounded so weird. And then they got this new ring announcer came in Tekken 3, and he was like, round 1. It just total badass. It was perfect. The soundtrack, oh my goodness. My favorite character is Yoshimitsu. I learned all of his moves. I learned his combos. I got really good with him. And then they changed him in later entries, and I sort of decided to abandon the series then, unfortunately. But Tekken 3, you got Tekken Ball mode, you got Tekken Force. There's lots of unlockables. You could probably unlock everything in a couple of days if you just sat down and played. It's not a super long game, but once you got all the characters, if you've got friends over, fire it up, have a bash. You're going to have a great time. And now we're down to the final 2. And this was a very hard decision to make because there was 2 games that I knew that were always going to be in the top 2. And I decided to put Driver at number 2. Everybody knows what Driver is. If you've never played the original game, well, this is the original game, and it's kind of basic now. But back then, an open world police chase genre of a car game never existed, and this came out and it was groundbreaking. But the reason why this means a lot to me is there are these driving games that you can go, you can pursue other cars, you can get chased by the police, you can do a checkpoint run. All of these are extremely fun, very challenging, and what really made this game so amazing to me is that I got to play it with my dad. My dad's seen it, and being a car guy, Dad's like, can I have a go? We ended up just sitting there and trying to beat each other's scores. It was an absolute blast. It's some of my greatest gaming memories. Absolutely. But Driver, I could say Driver 2, yeah, but Driver 1, it's always got a very, very warm, very awesome place in my heart. And here we are, number 1. And if that didn't sound dramatic enough for you, number 1. Gran Turismo 2. Now, I don't know whether some of you are like, oh yeah, Gran Turismo 2, yeah, good on you. But hear me out. Gran Turismo 2 is where I started playing the Gran Turismo games, and it blew my mind. There were a lot of cars. There's like 600 cars in that game. There's race car modifications. There's tuning. And then the fact that you can take pretty much any car into any themed race event made it even more challenging. One thing my dad and I used to do is we used to take this 1994 Subaru WRX into the Muscle Car Cup, and we used to race the muscle cars around the street circuits there, and they would outrun us on the straights, but on the corners we had the advantage, and it made for an awesome challenge. It was one of those games where you could make a game out of the game, not to mention the sheer amount of progress that you can make in it. Lower level cars that don't go quite as fast, and then you work your way up to racing cars, fully race modified cars, GT1s, these amazing weapons of cars for the time in 1999. Gran Turismo 2 will always, in my opinion, be the greatest Gran Turismo game, even better than Gran Turismo 4, and I have my reasons for that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much. Please take care, and I'll see you very soon in the next one. Bye.